So Paul Saxman, developer advocate here at Google, and with me is Marcelo. He's the technical lead on the Places API, and we're just going over a quick demo of the APIs, the Places APIs that are available. There's 3 big ones, and he's going to start out with the Places autocomplete, and go into the moderator queue, go through the questions in moderator queue, and then do a few questions that we hear pretty regularly about Places API, or go over a few questions we hear regularly, and then on to kind of the interactive portion of the show. So I guess it's all interactive. Right, so if anybody has questions along the way, fire them off, and we'll put them in moderator. We'll try to get to them. So.
All right. So going through the demo again. So I'm starting with autocomplete. So if you guys are not familiar, autocomplete takes the user input, and as the user is typing the name of a place, it will be suggesting possible places based on the string that he typed and also the viewport of the map. It's pretty similar to the autocomplete feature that you have on maps.google.com. So here I'll start with looking at the whole map of the globe, and I'll just start typing, let's say, L. So it's suggesting me London, Los Angeles. If I type B, Berlin, Barcelona. So let's pick San Francisco. So I use the data coming back from the autocomplete widget and use that to recenter and zoom in into my map. And I'm getting that viewport back from the map and feeding back into the autocomplete widget. So now I'll try again the same 2 searches. So I start with an L. Now it's getting Lombard Street in San Francisco. The B, which used to give me Berlin, Barcelona, it's giving me Berkeley as the first result.
See, Brazil was in the top list there. You have some connection with Brazil?
Yes, I'm Brazilian. But, so it looks like Google Maps like Brazil better than Belgium. That's good. So if I now, let's try getting a Starbucks. So I type the star, I go to Starbucks. So what I'll do here, I'll add a restriction. So let's say that I want only establishment. So that's local listing, so business. I won't be getting any address or countries or anything like that back. So if I now type S, I get SFO. So, San Francisco Zoo Society, ST. So you see, ST is enough for me to get Starbucks there. So I get a bunch of Starbucks. So no matter how hard I try, I won't be getting San Francisco as a result, for instance. I could try instead, let's say, switch to geocodes. So geocodes will actually just give me addresses, right? So if I try, let's try getting Starbucks again. So I get Starbucks Drive somewhere in California, but I don't get Starbucks. So I get even a Starbucks Way. Another restriction I can use is country restrictions. So I can type let's say a country code here. Let's say Australia.
I have a challenge for you. Can we tell if there's a Starbucks on Starbucks Way?
Well, we could try. We could go geocode. Let me remove the Australian restrictions. Let's say Starbucks Way. There we have in Starbucks Way. Now we try establishment.
I see. So you're basically taking the union of 2 searches to get you.
Yeah, well, I used the first search to get me to Starbucks Way, and then I switched it back to establishment and doing the search for Starbucks. So there is this, I forgot where Starbucks Way is, but yeah, so there's a Starbucks roasting plant in Starbucks Way. Probably the Starbucks roasting plant is naming the route called Starbucks Way. So it makes sense that we have some relationship there. So yes.
Cool.
So challenge accepted. So going back to, let's say, let me go back to San Francisco. And now I'll put a restriction of country, Australia. And if I type G, so although I'm looking at San Francisco and I'm typing G, I'm getting the Gold Coast in Queensland. If I remove the country restriction, type G again, what I'll be getting is Gary Danko, the restaurant in San Francisco. So the country restriction will pretty much overrule completely the viewport biasing.
So each of these requests, you're passing what information? You're passing the type, potentially a country, the search query, and then also the bounding box for your view?
Yep.
Cool.
And the backend will mix those up and try to come up with will rank all the results and bring back the top 5 or 10.
And this is all in JSON, XML, kind of easily digestible formats?
Yeah, so we have a JS API. That's what I'm using here. But also, if you're writing something that is not using JavaScript, you can also use the web service. And the web service will either give you responses in JSON or XML. So if we go, let's try going to Sydney. And then I want to show you a really recent addition, which is we call the type collections. So, autocomplete is restricted in that we can only use the top 2 types from the type hierarchy, which are establishment and geocode. So you cannot specify, say, restaurants or localities or suburbs. So all we've added to try to mitigate that is type collections. So for instance, if I type here, looking at Sydney, I type G, I'll be getting first result, Sydney George Street, right? But if I instead choose regions and type G again, I'll be getting Glebe back. And Glebe is a suburb of Sydney, which is, in Australia, suburbs and cities, they have the same meaning. If I type N instead, I'll be getting New South Wales, which is the state, and a bunch of suburbs and cities mixed in. But if I use just cities and type N again, I won't be getting New South Wales now, because cities will restrict to just smaller elements. So like a city, a suburb, and regions is more the macro elements on the geopolitical subdivisions. So you'll be getting states and province, that kind of stuff. So if you're building something like, let's say, a hotel finder, you may not really want to give your user street as results. You may want to give them just cities, cities and suburbs. So you'd use the city type collection.
So what would I do if there was something like a pseudo establishment, like let's say a farmer's market? So if I want to find all the farmers markets, then
yeah, so you'll have to be in our indexes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have. If it's the farmer market that is like a permanent event, we may have it. But if it's something that maybe will happen once a week, I don't think that we will have it in our indexes. But that's one interesting question, because what we want to do with API is we want to get a sense back from the development community and their users of what they think a place is. Because currently, Google has its own idea what a place should be, But if you get the feedback from developers and they have the ability to add places using the API, so if a lot of people start adding, farmer's market or even a bench in a park, there's no reason, if that's recognized by applications and by users as a valid and prominent place, there's no reason why it shouldn't be indexed.
Someday we might see speakeasies and
absolutely.
Google places. Cool. Or farmers markets.
So that's it for the autocomplete demo. And so the other important service that the Place API provides is the ability to search for places. Some people sometimes ask us, where should I use search and where should I use autocomplete? So autocomplete is really optimized to an interactive session with the user. So the user is typing something, he knows what he's looking for, he knows the name of the place he's looking for, and he's typing into a keyboard or a soft keyboard on a mobile device. And autocomplete will spit back answers really quickly. So it's really low latency and really fast. But at the same time, the ability to restrict your search and refine your search is much more limited. So if you're doing more exploratory type of search, so you want to know what places are around you, around a certain suburb, or around your user. Maybe he's holding a phone right now. I want to know what's the nearest bar or what's the nearest grocery shop. You'd search for that because the user doesn't know exactly what he's searching for. So that's what you would use search for, and it works. So the basic format is you give a center in the radius, and it's going to return the 20 places that are most prominent around that query area, the search area. So we're using here in this demo, we're using the map viewport as the search area. So I can position the map, let's say around the Moscone Center, and I'll do a search. So that's what the Place API, I think, are the 20 most prominent places in this area of San Francisco. So they are ranked by order of prominence. So, the most prominent places are the one that will come first.
And it's really kind of a variety of different places, right?
There's
downtown is a place in here.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do any restrictions in terms of what places you want us to return. So let me do again with a more narrow search radius.
And kind of what I've seen too. I mean, the sample of types that you have here. I mean, it's really extensive, right? I mean, there's the types that
we have, I think, around 130 different types, and it's actually there's a lot of important types that are missing from the list, but we're trying to approach it really carefully because inside Google those types are changing all the time,
right.
And once we commit that as an API to outside developers, we cannot change them anymore. So we chose to at first expose just those types that we really trust aren't changing, and hopefully we're going to be bringing more types in the near future. So now I can try being a little bit more specific with my search. So I'll just click on store, and now my request will come mostly for store. So you actually can see there's restaurants that come back. They're flagged as restaurants in the icon, but if you actually dig into them, you're going to see there maybe a department store that has a restaurant or a cafe, or MoMA has their own cafe and has something inside of them. So the fact that the icon is not really for a store doesn't mean that that place doesn't match your query.
And then one of our moderator questions was on kind of how things are ranked in here. So.
All right. So, as I said, the ranking, the basic ranking is the same one as you get on Google Maps. So you're ranking by the prominence of the place in the search area. So you can actually get a place that is really close to the search area boundary, come up as the first result. That probably means that it ranks really high in terms of popularity and number of reviews, and that kind of stuff. But we just recently added an option to rank by distance. So when I rank by distance, I actually ignoring the permanence, and I'm returning them in order of distance to the center of the search. So when I rank by distance, I'm not actually looking at the boundary anymore. It's not a search area. I just give a point, and then we will return the 20 places that match the query. They're closest to that center.
So then it's really I mean the maps window that you have there won't drop the pins.
If I repeat the same search, you get the same 20 places, no matter what zone level I'm at. Nice. And so one important point to make about searching by distance. Let me try. So you see here in my little demo, if I untoggle store, so I have no types restrictions, I can't actually search by distance anymore. If you try doing a rank by distance and you don't provide a keyword or a type restriction, you get an invalid request back. So there's got to be some type of restriction to your search, because it doesn't really make sense to make a search when you say, give me the 10 closest place to this point, if you don't say, yeah, but what type of place are you looking for?
So, awesome. So we might want to dive into moderator. I actually have one more question. It was really interesting to me. I notice you have checkboxes for the types. You can specify multiple types?
You can, absolutely. So I could, for instance, go say that I'm working on a website that is related to travel, right? So we may want to do searches. The user is searching for, what type of attractions are around a certain location. So you could do a search with restaurants, lodging, museum at once, and you get all of them. You don't actually have to do 3 searches. You could do 3 searches if you want more than 20 results, though. So it's up to you how you wanna structure your app.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, since users are getting, or developers are getting this back in just raw data, they can always do their own intersections, their own.
Good. Yeah. There's always a trade-off there, because we have much more data, much more information in our backend than the developer has when he gets the results back. So we will do a better job at ranking than what you could do on the client side. So just before we go to questions, just one thing that I'd like to highlight here. So if you're searching for restaurants, right? So you get all types of restaurants, and we don't have types for each different kind of cuisine, for instance. But you could do, say, restaurants and Italian, and you're going to get just restaurants that are also have some type of Italian slant in their in their maybe menu or the reviews or the description of the place or the name of the place.
So you obviously didn't search in North Beach because that's kind of a sparse list there. North Beach is the Italian neighborhood.
All right.
So
So what I could do also could be, say, search for karate, right? We don't have a specific type for karate, but I could do a search and maybe get some karate schools. Right, so that's the kind of flexibility that you can get with searches.
very cool. So yeah, if we like I said, if you any questions on these, just drop them in moderator, and we're going to dive into the whoa. Every time I reload moderator, the order is a little different. But yeah, put your questions in moderator, and we're going to kind of talk about those right now. So we have one from Peter in the UK. I don't know if Peter's on the Hangout.
I'm Jeremy, but I'm with Peter. He
Okay.
can't. He's somewhere else, but he can hear us.
Oh, excellent. So he had a question on highlighting KML line segments. Do you want to just reiterate that question for us, or
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we could read it off moderator for you as well.
No, read away.
Okay, cool. So he's asking if it's possible to highlight a KML line segment on mouse over, and the answer to that, I think we determined was not yet, but this is actually a good one for our issue tracker as a feature request. This is one of these kind of these cases where we think it's really nice to get developer feedback, kind of drive where the product goes. So onto that, so our map has hundreds of KML lines represent roads. It gets confusing. We'd like to highlight separate roads with a color change or info window pop-up. So this is exactly like how we like to get kind of developer requests. If you do file one of these kind of feature requests, always try to file it with what you're trying to do in addition to what you want the API to do, because sometimes there's a little bit of a mismatch. I mean, we may have another API coming out that may fit the need in addition to what you may think the specific API should do. So always give us the use case in addition to kind of what you think the API itself should do technically. So.
Okay. Can I expand on that question slightly?
Yeah, absolutely.
What we'd like is we have, as we say, have this great mass of roads as KMLs. When we go over each of these roads, we'd like not only the road to show up, but some kind of a pop-up just to pop up as it happens. Now we're going to put a lot of information into those pop-up boxes eventually. We're trying to rewrite that in Ajax at the moment. It would be too much to, as you scan across, and will be popping up all of that information to be pouring in. But initially, we just want a little bit of information. So just say the name of the road and some very basic information, and it's to be clear which road you're looking at when you go over it. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, like I said, I don't personally have the answer for that one, but I do understand. I don't think that's something that we do support. What I'll do after the conversation today is I'll put the link to our issue tracker up online, so you can kind of link to there. Everything you just said, I mean, enter as much information as you can. It really helps us to kind of clear things out, or kind of clear the use case, so or clarify the use case, and then once you get in the issue tracker, we can kind of bounce back and forth to kind of.
Brilliant. That's really good.
A little better. But so thanks a lot, and I'll post that soon after our talk today. We have one more. Actually, we have quite a few more. I'm going to go with what Andres back here has highlighted, I guess. So the question is, since sometimes the map data API is deprecated and not available anymore, what are the options to access and synchronize users' maps, especially from within the mobile apps? Marcelo, are you?
Yeah, no. So I'm not really super familiar with the Maps Data API.
So Maps Data API. So this is NACFIC. So what he pointed out was that yeah, it's not available anymore. We do have a service called Fusion Tables, and I can say that you know, I actually went through this migration myself. We were working on the MyTracks app. We moved from the Map Data API over to Fusion Tables. Fusion Tables is really straightforward to use. It's just a matter of SQL queries into a database over HTTP. So I think it's probably a good option. Take a look at it. If you don't think it really fits what you're looking for, you know, send us a question and let us know. One thing somebody just pointed out, Fusion Tables is experimental, which means that it's you know, subject to change. But I would say that that it's a good option over the Maps Data API. So we're actually going to rattle through a few more questions kind of quickly here because we're getting a little long on time. So we had one question from Dave in San Francisco. So his question was about the API key. It looks like he was getting some errors that the API key was not valid any longer. Probably just try a new API key and let us know how it goes. And again, you know, if this persists, this could be a platform bug that you'd want to file against our issue tracker. So definitely let us know. But yeah, definitely try a different API key. And so we had one from Norman Avia, and he was asking about the places. How is the order in places API shown?
The basic search, the basic ranking criteria that we have is the prominence of the place, which you could call it popularity, although it's a bit more complex and impossible for me to go into the details. But then you have the option to do the rank by distance, which is important to note here. It's not sorting by distance. So we don't take the same results as you would with the normal ranking and just reorder them by their distance. We actually do the search with a different ranking criteria. So you actually may get results that are very different from searching by we call prominence. Another criteria that can also come into effect if you're using the web service and you're actually submitting check-ins is places with a lot of check-ins will bubble up in the ranking. So they'll be on top of the ranking by prominence unless you're searching by distance, and then check-ins will be ignored.
We got one question about the Places API events. The question is whether there are public and private settings, and what is the use case? Is it appropriate for private parties or public events? This is from Leon down in Melbourne. Cheers, Leon. Long time no see.
So in terms of private or public, so events for now, they're application specific. So you'll be adding events, and they'll be showing up on your on the results for your specific app. If they'll be public or private in terms of, you know, it's John's party or concert, it's up to you to decide. You can use it however you want. But when you add a event, it won't show up on other people's app, just on your app. So it's private in that sense, but in terms of the semantics that you wanna assign to your events, it's up to your application. You can use it however you want.
Yeah. So now on to another question from Norman. How long will it take a place to hit the API after a user has added via the Android app? And what other sources are there to add places?
All right, so it hits your own app immediately. So You add a place, will show up in your results immediately. Before it hits, the Google canonical index, it has to go through a moderation pipeline, and we're still trying to sort that out how it's going to work, because we have to account for spamming and also all the other sources of data that Google has. And the second part of the question is, what are the sources?
What are the sources are there for adding places?
So, Google has a lot of ways for anyone to add a place to Google's database. So MapMaker is one. If you're a business owner, you can add your business and claim it as yours as well. There's a whole process for doing that. And Google uses a bunch of different feeds and crawling mechanism to build its index. Eventually, we do want the Places API to be a way for Google to know about new places and changes to existing places. We're just not quite there yet. It's a difficult problem, and we're trying to tackle it in the right way.
Cool. And next up, we have one from Mark. It's on the, is there going to be a G+ map layer like there was with Buzz? And can I check into an event? And how can I see all events near a selected place or around me on mobile? So, top question.
So G+ map layers wouldn't be really a Place API feature, so I can't really answer that question. Yes, you can check into an event. And the third part of the question is?
Whoops, I just lost it.
How can I see all the event near selected place?
Yep.
All right, so there's no way to search just for events yet. So you have to do a place search and then look at all those places that came back as a result and see the ones that have a event in it. So there's no way to do restrict results just to those places that have events yet. But if you think that's important for you, you can add it to the issue tracker and you look at it. We're going to look at it.
I think we're getting close to the end of the queue. Let's see. We have one here from Minansky. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but Minansky. First question, can I display the entire world map? And I should be able to put everyone's location in my group in the world map, and by clicking the person, I should initiate a call. So probably need a little more clarification on that one. Sounds a little bit like a feature request. We're going to kind of...
To me, it sounds more like a description of an app he wants to build. He wants to display a world map and show everyone's location in the map and click on the person to initiate a call. So there's a lot of different APIs that you're going to have to use to be able to build an app like that. But it sounds like a cool idea.
And I think the last one we got on here was from Jeremy in London. Where's the Hangout?
We know this now.
All right. Awesome. So do we have any questions from anybody logged in? So Jeremy, you're all set. Peter?
Yeah. Yeah, we're good, boys.
Awesome. I guess that's about it for time. We have a few questions that we might go over maybe at another time, just about Places.api in general, but I think we covered pretty much most everything we had on that list. So any closing words?
Keep submitting feedback.
Can I just ask, do you guys have a thing next week as well? Is there one next Tuesday?
Yeah, I think we have the Hangouts every week, and actually we just got a to be determined, so I think we plan them kind of on a weekly basis, but we'll post it on Google+. So
Cool.
keep an eye
Okay.
on the Google Plus stream, and we'll let you know. All the contact, connection information, everything will be posted up there.
Brilliant.
And I guess in terms of via being Places API or whatnot, probably be different product API next week. So in the maps realm. So yeah, that's it for me. If there's any more, like I said, I'll post the issue tracker. We'd love to hear the feature requests you guys have, any bugs that you guys are running into, any more questions. We'll take it up on the Google Plus comments for the Hangout, and that's it. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.